My wife made me promise I would never open the red notebook. And for 7 years, I kept that promise. Then one morning, she disappeared. No goodbye, no note, no explanation. And the notebook was still sitting exactly where she'd left it. Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you something. If the person you trusted most vanished without a word, would you respect their final secret? Or would you break your promise? Because that's the decision that destroyed the life I thought I understood. I found this story buried deep in Reddit after hours of searching. And honestly, I still think about it. My wife Emma and I were married for 11 years. Nothing dramatic. No constant fighting. No cheating scandals. No movie-style romance either. Just a normal life. The kind most people hope for. We had routines. Morning coffee. Weekend grocery trips. Late-night movies we'd both fall asleep during. Normal. Comfortable. Predictable. Then there was the notebook. A small red notebook. Nothing special. At least not on the outside. Emma kept it in the top drawer of her desk. Locked. Always locked. The first time I asked about it, she smiled. Then said something strange. Promise me you'll never read it. I laughed. Thought she was joking. She wasn't. Years passed. The notebook stayed locked. Sometimes she'd write in it late at night. Sometimes weeks would pass without her touching it. I eventually stopped asking. Everyone deserves privacy. At least that's what I told myself. Then everything changed. 3 months before she disappeared, Emma started acting differently. Not suspicious. Not cold. Just distracted. Like someone carrying a weight they couldn't put down. I'd catch her staring out windows, reading the same message repeatedly, losing track of conversations. When I asked if she was okay, she always gave the same answer. I'm fine. But she wasn't. You know how I know? Because one night I woke up around 3 in the morning, and her side of the bed was empty. I found her sitting alone in the living room, holding the red notebook, crying. Not quietly. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep. The kind people try to hide. When she noticed me, she slammed the notebook shut, wiped her face, and forced a smile. I sat beside her, asked what was wrong. She looked at me for a long time, then said something I'll never forget. If something happens to me, please remember that I loved you. My stomach dropped. I asked what she meant. She shook her head, refused to explain. The next morning, she acted completely normal, as if the conversation never happened. Weeks passed, then months, and little by little, I convinced myself I was overthinking everything, until the morning she disappeared. Her phone was gone. Her car was gone. Her purse was gone. But everything else remained, including the red notebook. For 3 days I searched, called hospitals, called friends, called family. Nobody knew where she was. Nobody had heard from her. Then on the 4th day, I received a text message from Emma. Only 6 words. Do not open the notebook yet. That was it. No location. No explanation. No answer when I called. Just those 6 words. And suddenly, the notebook became the only thing I could think about. Because if she was alive, why disappear? And if she was in danger, how did she send the message? That night, I sat in front of the notebook for nearly 2 hours, trying to decide whether to keep my promise. Then I noticed something I had never seen before. Tucked beneath the notebook was a photograph, and the person standing beside my wife was someone I recognized immediately, someone who was supposed to be dead. I stared at the photograph for what felt like forever, because I knew that face. There was absolutely no doubt. I'd seen it before. Not once. Not twice. Dozens of times. The man standing beside my wife was her older brother, Daniel. The same Daniel who had supposedly died 8 years earlier. The same Daniel whose funeral we'd attended. The same Daniel whose grave I'd visited with Emma. Yet there he was, standing beside her, smiling directly at the camera. The photograph looked recent. Very recent. Not 8 years old. Not even 1 year old. I flipped it over. Nothing. No date. No message. No explanation. Just a photograph that shouldn't exist. For a moment, I convinced myself there had to be another explanation. A look-alike. An old picture. Anything. But deep down, I already knew. The photo was real. And if it was real, then everything I knew about Daniel was a lie. And maybe everything I knew about Emma was too. I barely slept that night. Every question led to another question. Why would Emma hide this? Why fake something like that? And why send me a message telling me not to open the notebook? The next morning, I called Emma's mother. I didn't mention the photograph immediately. I just asked if she'd heard from Emma. She hadn't. Her voice sounded worried. Genuinely worried. Which only made things stranger. If Emma was hiding something, her family didn't seem to know about it. Then I asked about Daniel. There was a long silence. The kind that makes your stomach tighten. Finally, she said, "Why are you asking about him?" I hesitated. Then lied. "I had a dream about him." Another pause. Then she quietly replied, "I still miss him every day." The conversation ended a few minutes later. And somehow I felt even more confused. Because she sounded sincere. If Daniel was alive, his own mother didn't know. That afternoon, I went into the attic. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Just answers. Old family boxes. Photo albums. Documents. Anything. After nearly an hour, I found a box labeled D. Inside were old photographs, birthday cards, school certificates, and one newspaper clipping. The headline immediately caught my attention. Local man presumed dead after boating accident. Daniel. According to the article, his boat had been found drifting near the shoreline. Personal belongings were recovered, but his body was never found. I read that sentence 3 times. His body was never found. Suddenly the story felt different. Very different. Because Daniel hadn't been confirmed dead. He'd been presumed dead. The funeral. The grave. Everything came from an assumption. Not proof. I sat there trying to process it. Then something slipped from inside the newspaper clipping. A folded receipt. Old. Yellowed with age. I unfolded it carefully. And my heart nearly stopped. It was a storage unit receipt. Not Emma's. Daniel's. Dated just 6 months before his disappearance. At the bottom, someone had written a locker number in red ink. The exact same shade of red as Emma's notebook. My pulse started racing, because now there were too many coincidences. The photograph, the notebook, the disappearance, the storage unit. They were connected. They had to be. For the next hour, I argued with myself. Part of me wanted to wait, to trust Emma, to keep the promise. But another part of me couldn't ignore what was happening, because every answer seemed locked behind one thing. The notebook. I walked into the study, sat at Emma's desk, and stared at it again. The small red notebook. Silent. Waiting. Then my phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown number. Just one sentence. If you open the notebook before finding locker 214, she'll never forgive you. I froze. Because only one person knew about locker 214. And according to everyone I knew, that person had been dead for 8 years. For nearly a minute, I just stared at my phone, reading the message again. And again. And again. If you open the notebook before finding locker 214, she'll never forgive you. My hands were shaking. Because there were only 2 possibilities. Either someone was playing a cruel joke, or Daniel was alive. Neither explanation made any sense. Yet here I was, holding proof that someone knew about the locker. Someone who knew about Emma. Someone who knew about the notebook. The next morning I drove across town, following the address on the receipt. The storage facility sat near an old industrial district, a place most people would never visit unless they had a reason. The buildings looked worn. The parking lot was nearly empty. Even the air felt heavy. I walked into the office, showed the manager the receipt, and asked about locker 214. The moment he saw the number, his expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. He looked at me, then looked at the receipt, then back at me again. "You're here for Daniel?" My stomach dropped. I nodded. The manager exhaled slowly. I was wondering when someone would come. Those words hit me hard. Wondering when someone would come. As if he'd been expecting this. As if Daniel had planned it. The manager disappeared into a back office. A minute later, he returned holding a small envelope. My name was written on the front. In Emma's handwriting. I felt my pulse spike instantly. Emma had been here. Recently. Very recently. The envelope wasn't dusty. It wasn't old. It looked almost new. I opened it immediately. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Just one sentence. Please trust me a little longer. That was it. No explanation. No location. No clue about where she was. Just another mystery. At that point I was frustrated. No. More than frustrated. I was angry. Everyone seemed to know something except me. Emma. Daniel. The manager. Whoever was sending the messages. I was the only one left in the dark. Then the manager handed me a key. Locker 214. I walked down a narrow hallway. Past dozens of metal doors. Until I found it. The same number from the receipt. The same number from the message. The same number that had somehow connected everything. For a moment I just stood there. Then unlocked it. The door rolled upward. Slowly. My heart pounding harder with every inch. I expected boxes. Documents. Old furniture. Instead, there was only one thing inside. A large cardboard container. Sealed shut. With my name written across the top. I carried it home. The entire drive wondering what I was about to find. When I finally opened it, I discovered hundreds of photographs. Hundreds. Most of them featured Emma. Some featured Daniel. Some featured people I didn't recognize. The dates stretched back nearly 10 years. At first, they looked ordinary. Family gatherings. Road trips. Birthday celebrations. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed something. A little girl. She appeared again and again throughout the photographs. Always smiling. Always standing beside Emma. Yet I had never seen her before. Not once. Which was impossible. Emma and I had been together for 11 years. How could there be a child this important in her life that I'd never heard about? I flipped over one of the photographs. And felt my heart stop. Written on the back were 4 words. For Lily's future. Lily. The little girl had a name. But I still didn't know who she was. I spent hours sorting through the pictures. Trying to find answers. Trying to find anything. Then near the bottom of the box, I found a small folder. Inside were medical records. Legal documents. And one sealed letter. The envelope was addressed to me. Again in Emma's handwriting. At that point I wasn't sure if I wanted more answers. Or fewer. But I opened it anyway. The first line instantly changed everything. By the time you read this, you'll know Daniel never died. I froze. My eyes locked on the page. Every sound around me disappeared. Because after weeks of mystery, after all the lies, after all the secrets, Emma had finally confirmed it. Daniel was alive. But the next sentence was even worse. Much worse. Daniel isn't the person you should be worried about. My heart sank. Because if Daniel wasn't the danger, then who was? And why had Emma disappeared to protect them? I must have stared at that sentence for 5 straight minutes. Daniel isn't the person you should be worried about. Then who was? For weeks, I'd convinced myself Daniel was the center of everything. The fake death. The photographs. The storage locker. The messages. Emma's disappearance. Everything pointed to him. But according to Emma, I was looking in the wrong direction. I forced myself to keep reading. The next paragraph explained who Lily was. And when I learned the truth, everything suddenly made sense. Lily wasn't Emma's daughter. She wasn't Daniel's daughter either. She was Daniel's niece. The daughter of his best friend. A man named Michael. Years earlier, Michael and his wife had died in a car accident. Lily survived. But barely. With no immediate family able to care for her. Daniel stepped in. Quietly. Without telling anyone. According to Emma, he became Lily's legal guardian. And for years, he raised her like his own child. The reason nobody knew? Because Michael had owed a dangerous amount of money to dangerous people. People who believed Lily had inherited something valuable. Something worth finding. Something worth hurting people for. The more I read, the more my stomach tightened. Daniel didn't fake his death for money. He didn't fake it to escape responsibility. He disappeared because it was the only way to keep Lily safe. If nobody could find Daniel, they couldn't find Lily. For 8 years, he lived under another identity, moved constantly, changed jobs, changed cities, everything to protect one little girl. Then came the part that broke me. Emma had known for years, not from the beginning, but eventually Daniel trusted her with the truth. She became part of the secret, part of the protection, part of Lily's life. The photographs suddenly made sense. The birthday parties, the vacations, the smiling little girl. Emma wasn't hiding an affair. She wasn't hiding another family. She was helping protect a child. Then I reached the final pages and learned why Emma disappeared. A few months earlier, someone had started asking questions again. Old questions. Dangerous questions. The people searching for Michael's missing inheritance had resurfaced. They believed Daniel was alive, and they were getting close. Too close. Emma left because she knew they might come looking for anyone connected to him, including me, including my family. She didn't disappear because she stopped loving me. She disappeared because she was trying to protect me, just like Daniel had protected Lily. Then I reached the final page, the very last page, and there was one final message. Now you can open the notebook. I laughed. Actually laughed. After everything that had happened, the notebook was still waiting. Still sitting on Emma's desk. Still locked. The same notebook that started all of this. 3 days later, I finally opened it. Do you know what was inside? Not bank accounts. Not secret documents. Not hidden identities. Just memories. Hundreds of pages of memories. Moments Emma never wanted to forget. Our first date. Our wedding. The first apartment we could barely afford. The stupid arguments that seemed important at the time. The road trips. The late-night conversations. The ordinary moments that become priceless later. Page after page. Year after year. Our entire life together. Near the end, I found one final entry, written only weeks before she disappeared. One day he'll understand why I kept this. I just hope he never doubts how much I love him. I couldn't hold back the tears after that, because all this time, I thought the notebook contained a secret. The truth was the opposite. The notebook contained the truth. The real truth. Not mysteries. Not lies. Not hidden identities. Just love. 6 months later, I received a phone call. A number I didn't recognize. When I answered, I immediately recognized the voice. Emma. Alive. Safe. Crying. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered 4 words. The same 4 words I'd been waiting months to hear. I'm coming home. That was almost 2 years ago. Today, Lily is safe. Daniel is safe. And Emma is sitting across from me as I write this. Sometimes I look at the red notebook on our shelf and smile, because the thing I feared most wasn't what was inside it. It was what I imagined was inside it. And that's the lesson I learned from all of this. Sometimes the secrets that scare us the most are nowhere near as powerful as the stories we invent in our own heads. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. And tell me honestly, if the person you loved most asked you never to open something, would you keep that promise? Or would curiosity win?